Thank you for coming. I will be presenting today on behalf of my co-authors, Sara, Akrivi, Stavros, Angeliki, and Sara. It's a collaboration between various institutions across Greece, the UK, and Germany. And I will start by personifying for a moment our chatbot that we fondly call ChatCat, and ask you a provocative, or I hope so, question. So are you ready? Would you bury someone you care about, like a dead member of your family, under your bed? Or under the kitchen floor of your home? Sorry, what was that? He said he would if he killed him. Oh, okay. Creepy. So I think most of you would probably feel uncomfortable with just the thought, to say the least. Some of you, though, more alternative types, would perhaps be less negative. And some of you may want to think about it a little bit, right? So in any case, I'll leave this. We'll continue later. But it is this type of provocation that we argue can create an emotive engagement, in particular, a discussion-based model of affective encouragement and engagement. So as we see it at a superficial level, the efficacy of the bot in provoking a reply is and engaging the user sufficiently is for the user to complete the chat. A deeper provocation, though, entails forms of conscious reflection, users reconsidering their point of view or demonstrating alternative perspective taking. And at the deepest level, we argue, that provocation leads to transformation, and that means taking action beyond the chat itself, perhaps talking to somebody else about it or doing something. So in our view, the definition of emotive engagement that we subscribe to is framed as embodied meaning making and has action embedded into it. Now, this work is situated within a larger project called Emotiv. It's a European Commission-funded research and innovation action, which sets to explore the potential emotive connections of visitors to museums and archaeological sites, and how digital tools can enhance these sites' relevance to people's lives today. And why is this needed? Why are emotive connections to cultural heritage content needed? Because it is well established in the literature that experiences, which include provocation and feeling, amongst other things, are more lastingly remembered and can enable attachment to, appreciation, protection, and preservation of cultural heritage sites. One such site, we are using this to instantiate our approach, is a very fascinating Neolithic site, 9,000-year-old site, in the remote center of Turkey. It's called Çatalhöyük. It's been excavated for the last 60 years by more than 1,000 specialists, with incredible evidence of ways of life that may be very unfamiliar to us today. It's an UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it's been receiving a lot of visitors since it's been listed by UNESCO. But Çatalhöyük is remote, it's very hard and difficult to visit, and if somebody manages to get there, it is not very well resourced. On the other hand, it has a thriving Facebook community, almost 10,000 visitors. Go on the Facebook, it's called the Çatal Research Project, the Facebook site. So we thought that this would be a very fitting case to apply and explore the use of a minimal text-based medium, a chatbot, and an equally simple interaction framework that is in line with such a medium and in line with the practical realities of this context. However simple this interaction framework, the bot and the content of the bot is not simple. We have chosen such hard and diachronic themes, we think, such as death, the distribution of wealth, gender or other equalities, privacy, and other topics of that sort that seem fitting to the findings that the archaeologists have found on the site and the interpretation they have given to them. And surprisingly, it is quite unusual for heritage sites to promote dialogue on such issues, despite the increasing popularity of difficult heritage, as it is called. So we started by constructing a traditional Facebook Messenger chatbot, or an infobot, if you will. And to do so, we first reviewed 5 years of posts on the research, on the Çatalhöyük Research Project's Facebook account, and likes and comments and so forth, and performed thematic analysis focused on grouping and selecting the topics that seem to be more interesting to the people that follow this Facebook site. And to further develop the bot's content, we hosted 5 live chat sessions. We recruited domain experts, archaeologists, and each one ran the session. And we identified the 5 topics according to the thematic analysis that we had done, and advertised these sessions through social media to get people to ask questions and have the archaeologists in real time answer these questions. So that helped us build the factual database of this chatbot. And the process of crafting this first informational bot entailed various design decisions, such as the language we would use, the style, whether there would be casual or non-casual content, buttons, and emojis, etc. So we came up with a conversational and approachable tone that has a bit of this witty chat cat personality in it as well, an attitude. However, and we evaluated this infobot in a first study with 27 users who came from different categories of users. So we had experts from the site who have been to the site or who are working on the site, but we also had the majority of the users we tested it with were people that had never heard of or had never been to Çatalhöyük. And this study confirmed that this chatbot offered mostly propositional intelligence, as one can say. So mostly informational content upon request. So when the bot was faced with questions that it couldn't understand and thus could not reply to appropriately, users reported losing interest in it. So the next natural step, given this result, was to equip the bot with some kind of possibility to hold a meaningful dialogue with its users, challenging them to approach the presented topic through a completely new perspective. And we were inspired by Mark Sample, who talked about bots of conviction. So our chat cat would become one of those bots of conviction, which purposefully seeks to provoke users about their values, beliefs, and prejudices. And we introduced an interactional paradigm that we hope could ignite dialogue, reversing the usual pattern that one sees in service-oriented bots, where the user is asking the questions rather than the in the traditional pattern, users ask the questions. In our interactional pattern, the bot is asking the questions rather than the user. So how does this work? The bot starts out with a declaration, a provocative statement, such as the question that I posed at the beginning. The user will respond negatively or positively or ambiguously, and depending on the response, there will be an exchange of ideas between the chatbot and the user. At partway through the dialogue, The bot will test the user's conviction with another question where the user will have to respond to negatively, positively, or ambiguously. So that will go back to another question to clarify what the answer will be. And finally, the pattern will conclude with a provocative statement. And if we want to see this schematically, it goes like this. So the introduction is a provocative question. The flow continues into a series of exchanges and branches depending on the user's response. Then it comes together with another provocative question, breaks again, depending on the responses, comes together and concludes with what we call a statement of conviction. And so let's go back to our conversation episode, the one we started with, and see an example of how that may unfold according to this pattern. So there's a choice here at the beginning between the info bot, the first version, and the bot of conviction. Let's choose, of course, intrigue me. That's what everybody does anyway. The user is then presented with the topics that we have implemented so far. So let's choose death, and we'll see the question that we had originally. So let's say that there are these two different strands of threads of answers. So the positive one will come back, the chatbot will come back with another question. The negative one, of course, will also engage the user coming back with another question. Why not? Are you afraid? Let's take this and see what happens next. So there will be an exchange of questions and answers that takes place. The user is asked to respond, and the responses are seemingly taken into account. But the chatbot, as a true conversational partner at times, will seem to care more about expressing its own opinion than listening to the opinion of the user. Then there is a question part way to test the user's conviction. So do you bury your dead with beads and other things? Here, the user can actually answer positively. You don't need to be negative all the time. So yes, sometimes, in which case the bot will respond to that and take the positive strand, the positive thread, if you remember the figure 8 schematic that we show, the diagram that we saw. And then again, the bot seems to take the user into account, but slowly transforms from a mere neutral information provider to a rather stubborn conversation partner in some ways. So there is a subtle transfer of control of the dialogue from the user to the chatbot, which seemingly works to foster respect on the part of the user towards the bot in some ways, or hopefully. And this finally ends in a statement of conviction and concludes this very brief interaction on this topic between the bot and the user. So 6 months after that first evaluation and the first formative studies that were carried out to refine the design of the interaction of the infobot, we contacted almost all of the 27 participants, and we asked them if they were willing to spend time with the bot of conviction this time. 9 of them responded positively, so we used observation and post-experience questionnaire, the same one we had used with the infobot, but we added 5 new questions focusing on the nature of the dialogue with the bot, perspective taking, and challenging of users' assumptions. And we also observed users interacting with the chatbot in multiple events. And what we've seen so far is that overall the users become very engaged and immersed in this conversation right away and seem to reflect on the bot's opinions during and after the fact. And one of the elements that was key was the element of surprise. So they are taken by surprise usually, and that is one of the factors that draws them into the experience. So we are continuing with the evaluation studies with an emphasis on natural settings longitudinally, and we are also looking into embedding the evaluation within the experience itself. So adding perhaps questions that the bot will be asking the user in a way that the evaluation is not obvious to the user, and that way we don't have to conducted using questionnaires and other methods. In order to build a model for a bot of conviction that is extensible far beyond Çatalhöyük, which is a fascinating case, but it shouldn't be the only one. We want this to be usable by any typical heritage site where there may be no real digital capacity, which is usually the case with heritage sites and museums, but where the site would want to support a challenging and self-reflective dialogue with its visitors. I'm happy to take questions, provocative or not, ones. Thank you very much.
We have microphones there and here. Any question?
I didn't provoke you enough then.
I would like to know.
Oh, okay.
My name is Claudio from IBM Research. It seems that people in marketing would love this kind of bot. A bot that's convicted about Coca-Cola and try to convince you to get it instead of whatever.
Oh, okay. I would think that it wouldn't be that mainstream because it can be actually provocative in a way that would make people feel uncomfortable. And I'm not sure that marketing would like such a thing or big corporations would want to sell or political parties. Oh, well. Yeah.
But it's cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Hi.
I would like to ask you to go
There's
to
no way. If you could repeat maybe for everyone.
I will repeat, yes.
So you commented about the role of surprise, and so I'm wondering about like the affect versus the surprise in terms of the results you found.
Okay. The question was about surprise versus affect in terms of the result. So surprise is just the hook. It's just the beginning. And a more prolonged emotional engagement or emotive engagement, affective, is something that we see in various ways throughout. But the provocation and putting a question that's provocative as the first interaction encounter has this idea of surprise. Surprise will draw you in rather than have you casually look at it and kind of dismiss it later. So yes, surprise is not as deep, if you will, as the rest of it, the rest of the affective engagement that we are looking at or for.
Hi, Eric Ballmer, Lehigh University. There's a lot in here that's really interesting. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the conceptual framework that you're using to operationalize this idea of reflection, and then how the design of the chatbot is specifically guided by that framework for reflection.
Okay. I would like to refer you to our paper, which has a lot more about that in there, because I think it's quite... It will take a long time. I don't know how well we're doing in terms of time. But we are looking at critical theory and critical design and reflective theory and reflection. And we do have that reference and how I just had a slide about that at the very beginning of this talk. But we have much more in the paper.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have time for one question.
Okay.
Then just...
You can in the meantime. Yes.
And then if anyone has another question. Yep, please.
Hi.
Hi.
So a question and a quick suggestion. The suggestion is that in speech communication there's this notion of priming. So that you say, you make a statement and you say something like, well, you could ask me about that later. So that's a way to maybe further engage people without very overtly, without as much surprise maybe. The question is, have you had, in the cases that you ran, Did you have anybody who just sort of completely recoiled, who was so taken aback that they wouldn't? Because it's a fine line, right? I mean, at what point are you provocative, and at what point are you sort of pushing people off?
We did not have, sorry, let me just use the microphone because I'm aware that it has to be recorded. We did not have such a case of people taken aback that much that they couldn't continue. We are aware of the possibility, and we have taken into account such a possibility, and we have looked at the literature too. Now, I forgot to maybe mention, I did say this is a rules-based chatbot. It's a rule-based chatbot. It's not intelligent in any way. So we have to design it in such a way and use language in such a way that it could really give the impression that it is intelligent and be bulletproof in that sense. So yes, it's a very good suggestion. Thank you.